Hello, I'm Jordan, and I'm your podcast host. And unfortunately, we are not going to be able to be joined by Insha, but today we are joined with a special guest named Sabeen. Why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Hey guys, I'm Sabeen, and I'm a rising senior, and I'm super excited to be on here.
Awesome. We are super excited to have you. Today we're going to be discussing a lot about balancing things like school, work, family, extracurriculars, etc., everything like that. And then we'll go over how to say no to certain opportunities, because I know especially I can struggle with that, and I just say yes, 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 please give me everything. And then lastly, we'll be going over how to avoid burnout, especially as students. So we're super excited to have you, or we're super excited to have this episode to talk about these essential things. And this is Forever Blooming. So, first things first, again, we're going to start off with how to balance things in your life. And I want to open this question to Sabine here. Would you say that you have high standards for yourself, or is there a lot of pressure outside of that can cause you to achieve more than you, I wouldn't say more than you should, but just achieve more?
Definitely. I feel like I do put a lot of pressure on myself just because sometimes a lot of people say oh, do your parents put pressure on you or your friends? And sometimes I feel like my biggest pressure is myself. And I feel like that's something I definitely need to be mindful of, because sometimes it does happen where you're the one that's burning yourself out and you're the one who's pushing yourself. Mm-hmm. And while that can be a really good thing, it could also kind of drag you down in some ways where you need someone else to point out okay, maybe you need to calm down, maybe you need to step back. And it's hard. I think the worst motivator sometimes is yourself, just because you don't know sometimes your limits and other people do. And so I feel like it is definitely difficult. It kind of works both ways, but I would say I definitely put more pressure on myself than maybe my friends or maybe my family.
Right. I totally get that, because I know that in some people's cases where there's just really, really strict parents, and it can cause you to feel just really sad sometimes when you're not achieving more. But I know that me personally, I definitely relate to the putting your pressure on yourself. I know my mom is yeah, you can be the best you can be, but if you get a B, that's okay. Mm-hmm. But when I get a B, I'm whoa, whoa, wait a minute.
Definitely.
Follow-up question to that. Do you think that being able to put that sort of pressure on yourself is a more positive thing or a more negative thing in the end of the day?
At the end of the day, I do see it more in a positive way. I feel like it's better for you to motivate yourself than maybe others. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you start getting it from others, it's that comparison game. What is so-and-so doing? Or, oh, I want to be like so-and-so. And I feel like LinkedIn has totally done that for me. Where I get so amazed by all of these people's accomplishments and what they're doing. And I'm I'm just sitting at home. I'm not doing anything spectacular. I feel like a positive drive can definitely come from watching successful people, and it's good to have role models and stuff, but I feel you can't compare. And I feel it is honestly a first instinct for many of us. How can you not compare? You're in the same grade and you're in the same demographic and you have same interests, but one person's all the way up there having internships at the top companies, and you're just oh, I'm interning at the local place.
Right.
I don't think sometimes we undermine our own success, and I feel we should not do that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I feel it's more on the negative side.
I definitely get that. I know for a fact that America especially, I can't speak for any other countries, but we're all about get the grind in and get that sort of mm-hmm. just be the best you can be, but be better than everybody else. And I think that by adopting that mindset, you kind of again put in that sort of competitive nature and instill it into you and make yourself feel bad, like you said, undermining your successes when you see other people succeeding more. When I always wondered why we focus more on achieving more than somebody else when we could just be like, we're in this together, like High School Musical, you know?
Definitely. I feel like it's a small community of people that really uplift each other, but a lot of people like to compare and maybe keep, like, if they find an opportunity that they're not even going to use, like, what's the harm in sharing it with someone who actually could benefit from it, you know? And I feel like, especially because I know that I'm not the only one feeling this way, I feel like, and other people are like this the same way, that I think it's important to, like, put yourself out there as someone who's there to help and put yourself in that kind of position, because in the end, that's what's going to make, like, a positive change in the world, not, like, everyone just being on their own.
Absolutely. I get that. I know that, again, you did mention that everybody feels this way, so I really want to ask this question for you, especially as a high school student and an AP student and just a highly involved student as you are, like a volunteer in your school and everything, and outside volunteering in the, I forgot what it was called, did you volunteer at, you said this name of this organization that you really liked. What was it called?
It was United Way. Was that?
Yes. So, yeah, that's definitely it. Especially considering all that you do you think there's pressure to do more than the average student?
Yeah, I feel like for sure. I mean, when you're an AP student or you're doing all these extracurriculars, like, there's a reason you're there. You're not sitting in an AP class because you're, like, dumb. Obviously, you've worked hard. You have that grit. You're like there to work for it. And obviously, there's a bigger commitment on an on-level class, like a gym class. You can't even compare to an AP calculus class. Like, those, you're going to be working, like, multiple hours a night. You're going to need to ask questions. You're going to, like, cry over, like, failing test scores, like, hurt.
Oh.
I mean, it's definitely, like, a pretty, like, brutal, and I feel like school definitely is something that overworks people. And I feel like that's why there's, like, this pressure that, like, you always need to be good and you're always on top. And I feel like, I mean, high school is what sets you up for college. Like, if you don't do good in high school, then it's like, what about my future? And I feel like there is a lot of pressure, especially of those students who are in AP classes trying to get that college credit or trying to get ready for college. Like, obviously, they are taking that into account. Like, this is just, like, one step of the way. And so I feel like that's definitely why there is more of a pressure on those type of students.
I agree. As an AP student myself, I resonated a lot with the college aspect that you mentioned, just trying to build your college resume and trying to get all these curricular or extracurriculars in to achieve the next step, basically. By the way, shout out to everybody who doesn't want to go to college. You're great. I do want to say that even though AP classes are supposedly trying to prepare us for college, I feel like a lot of college classes are easier than AP classes. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but with, like, dual enrollment and everything, as an AP student and dual enrollment student, I can definitely take college classes and I'm like, man, all these type of college classes that I've taken are so easy compared to, like, the stacks and stacks and papers that they give me in AP classes. How do you feel about that particularly?
I mean, a college board's a different story. Me and test scores, me and tests in general just have, like, a little bit of, like, beef. We do not get along, but I definitely, I've heard a lot of people say that, like, oh, the class was harder than the AP test, or my teacher just made things, like, way more, and, like, the AP test felt easy, or I've heard a lot of things from my dual enrollment friends as well. Like, they said that they've preferred dual enrollment so much more over AP just because they like the idea of how the class wasn't boiled down just to one test. There wasn't that pressure that, like, it wasn't one test that was going to decide if you got the credit. Like, all your work was taken into account. And I feel like that's my problem with AP is it's so unfair that, like, if I got, like, a 98% in the class, but then I got, like, a 3 on the exam, like, I feel like it's, like, my 98 should count for something. It shouldn't just be, like, only the test. Like, what if, like, on the test someone's having, like, a bad day, or they're just not a good test taker? Like, I feel like there are just so many other factors. But, like, over the course of a year, I feel like that can prove a lot more than, like, 4 hours.
I definitely agree. I don't even have anything follow-up to say because I just agree so much. Because I do want to say that this class, especially my AP Lang exam that I just took last year, I can say that I did achieve a 105% or whatever. No, I'm not even. I don't want to brag because no, but I gotta stay humble. But I feel like even though I did achieve like a really good grade in that class, I still fear about my AP exam, and I think that I might get a lower score than my actual class, and it feels like that sort of pressure that's been building up, and when you receive your score and it's not the score that you want, it can make you feel like devastated, and you can absolutely like throw that high grade in the trash, and that sucks. That sucks majorly. I do want to say that I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the episode, but all of our research in this episode is United States only, so I do want to share this little tidbit. 45% of teens are stressed and overworked by school, and the smallest things can trigger a meltdown because of the level of perfectionism they have grown to have. And I definitely want to say that I am such a perfectionist, and I can definitely like attribute that to taking the AP classes and the college classes and just the way that I was raised in general. Do you think that, are you a perfectionist? And if you are, do you think that AP classes have attributed to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I spend time on things that don't nearly need as much as like the time that I'm putting in. I'm also like I'm part of a Gen Z consulting company called Raise Consulting, and I run their social media. So a post should not take that long, like maybe 30 minutes tops, but I have found myself like maybe for an hour just like, well, what about this in the corner, or like what graphic would look good? And so like I don't need to be obsessing over it, but of course I just want it to be perfect because like I feel like because I like to do it as well, it's just like something that I'm like, okay, like I can spend more time on this anyways. But definitely I feel like even with my AP tests, like anything short of perfection, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change? Like I instantly go into like this panic mode, like what did I do? Like this is not what I was expecting. So I totally agree with that statistic, and I feel like a lot of kids, especially in those classes, they're very high achieving, and so when they don't get what they were expecting, it does hurt a lot.
And I definitely think another thing to that, or another factor to that, is that schools pressure you a lot more than they should. I know that, again, as a perfectionist, you're gonna critique every single little thing, but especially schools being like, oh yeah, take AP classes, oh yeah, put all this pressure on this AP exam and get it right, and if you fail then you're a troubled kid. And I hate that stereotype that if you don't put in enough work, even if you've been like studying for 5 hours and you get a low score, that you're automatically this troubled kid, and nobody wants to be the troubled kid. So it's like, why why, first of all, why do you put that pressure on us? And second of all, why isn't there more of a growth mindset in schools? Like, can we celebrate the progress and not focus on the outcome? I know that you did mention that were really passionate about your consulting page, or the organization that you work for. I think it's called Raise Consulting. Yes. Another question that I have regarding things you enjoy: how do you find enjoyment when balancing your work and your personal life? With your personal life?
I think it's about like taking time to yourself, and I feel like that's the hardest part about like working remotely, is that it's hard to like distance yourself. Like, this is me time, this is work time. And so I feel like, especially just because I can pick up my computer and start working, like there's always something to do. Like I could always be doing something, and a lot of times like I do just like waste a lot of time. I just get distracted very easily. Like I'm like, oh, let me just text like so-and-so, or like what's going on in this Discord channel or something, So I feel like something that should just take me an hour, I'm sitting there for like 2 hours. So I try to like not like I put my phone away, or like try to put my laptop away or something. Sometimes my mom's like, yep, that's enough, you need to come downstairs, and I'm like, it's like important for someone to be there to pull you out, and I know my mom has to do that a lot just because it's hard to like put that boundary there.
Absolutely.
But like, you know, there's always like things like, it's like the small things that matter, like just watch TV, or you know, go outside, play basketball, take a walk or something like that, or listen to music. So I feel like those things definitely help like draw like that border, which I have to say I'm still like learning how to do. Like, it is very hard for me, and like I feel like even my mom sometimes it's like, okay, like you need to take a break now, or I feel like I'm either like completely on one side or like I don't do anything. So I feel like I'm just like learning how to like find that balance and find that middle ground.
I totally get you, and I know that myself especially, I'm definitely working through that, but I think even though we haven't got it all figured out, that it's still important that we're trying in the end. I know that today, actually, I spent, like, I can't even tell you how long I spent working, like, probably 6 to 7 hours just straight, just working, and because yesterday I felt like doing nothing and just watching TV on my phone or doing drawing, doing other things, but I think that especially trying to balance out your time instead of just completely being on one side and completely doing work, like you mentioned, is definitely essential, and it's definitely a thing that I'm working through and that we're working through, so yay us. I guess I can ask you, what sort of things keep you motivated?
I think a big thing, I feel like my family, my friends, my teachers, and I think having personal goals is also super important. I never used to be like a goal setter. Like, I thought that was like kind of dumb. I was like, who's actually really gonna like do this? But like, once I started like actually putting goals for myself and like even a to-do list, like just like that satisfaction, like, oh, I finally did this, or oh, like I want to have this done by the end of August, especially with college applications and stuff coming up. I'm trying to prioritize, like, oh, I kind of want to start my Common App then, or like I need to register like the SAT like this month. And I feel like it's like this, again, like those small things that like make a difference. It makes me feel like I've actually done something. And I think the biggest thing is that I love everything I do. Like, I don't do anything that I don't like. And if I start not liking it, I try to distance myself from it. I quit it, or I take a break, just because it's not worth my time. And I mean, I do have like a lot on my plate. So if I start not liking something, like, first of all, I'm sure I'll replace it with something else. And second, I could just dedicate more time to something I actually like doing. And so I feel like it's really important to like value what you like and what you have time for, because you want to spend your time and talent doing something you love and not just something for your resume or your college applications. Because in my opinion, I think it's super obvious when someone does something that they're actually passionate about, or when someone's just doing it for like the resume. And I think it's just, I feel like when you spend your time doing things that make you happy, that it makes it feel like less dreadful in the end. Like, of course, there are days where I don't want to go volunteer, or I don't want to make a post or attend this meeting. But like in the end, like, you learn that like, obviously you're not going to love your job all the time, but sometimes you just have to push through to get it done, just because you don't want to, like, everyone has a bad day once in a while, you know? And so I feel like that's why, like, it's honestly one of the biggest things that like I preach is you have to like love what you do, because you want to do things that you're passionate about, and people can see through that for sure.
Absolutely. I think that I just agree with what you said. And I also want to say that there are a lot of people out there that are, again, just splurging all of their time, not doing the things that they like, and feeling like really sad. And I can admit that I was that person once upon a time, and it sucked. And I do want to say, even if you don't know what you want to do as far as like your career, that's completely okay. You can definitely try things out, but establishing that boundary of if you don't like it, then don't do it is like essential. And I really love that you're spreading that message, and that you're like actively living that out.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like people like are always like, where do I start, or like what I do. And I feel like one of the things I've learned in the past like few months is there are so many student organizations out there, or so many student-led initiatives that you can become a part of. Like, it ranges from things that like like care for animals is one that I know that's on Instagram, but then there's one like for astrology. Like there are just so many things that like even if it's just like a little bit of an interest, like like I feel like student orgs are the way to go, and I feel like it's hard like building something from the ground
Right.
up, and I feel like that is a much more valuable experience than like just interning at like something that's already been built and you're just like another person. But if you can like make a way for yourself and for other people, like I feel like you'll just value that experience like so much more. And I mean, even with you, I mean, you started this podcast and I mean, like you paved the way for it. So I feel like that is like a whole different opportunity and a whole different experience that like not many people have, but like I definitely would encourage people starting their own initiatives because you just become so much more invested into it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you flattering me.
Of course.
No, but I totally agree. I really love that there's definitely people out there that are starting their own things and doing the things that they actively love and putting the time for it and effort and allowing people to join their space and join their team to just have a good time. And I definitely think that is definitely like 100% better than any like corporate world that's out there. I do want to say that it's not your job to start a student initiative, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are just like, oh yeah, I'll just start one because I don't know, it looked good on my college resume.
Do not
do that.
start it for your college resume. I feel like I have seen so many organizations over the summer that just like I'm like dead silent. And I'm like, probably because they've already gotten accepted.
Really?
Yes. Like I've noticed, and I'm like, obviously like new ones always start up. So again, it's like a rotating cycle. But I'm like, please do not start a student organization if it's just for your college application, because I feel like that is terrible. Like I don't know. Like I feel like you really just need to find something for you, and if you can't like start an organization, like you don't think you can do it, like that is perfectly okay. There is still like hundreds of things you can choose from to do, and again, don't feel pressurized to start your own student organization. Like that's like if that's not for you, that's not for you, and that's totally okay.
I feel like there's certain people that can handle the job and there's certain people who can't. I'm not saying that as a way to like look down on other people, but I think that especially for me as a person with anxiety and depression and things like that, it can definitely like influence your or the way that you think and everything that you do. And I know that starting Forever Blooming was a huge risk and a huge leap for me, but I knew that it was my passion, like mental health and things like that, so I started it. But I know that there are some people who have like mental health conditions that will limit you a lot and will make you like fear and make you feel awful. So please do not pressure yourself or push yourself to put yourself in that sort of position. And yeah, I definitely think student organizations are a great thing, and join one if you can, start one if you want to, only if you're passionate.
Yeah.
But don't pressure yourself to do it.
Yeah, no, I'd rather you say, no, I can't do this right now, than just start it because you feel pressure to. Like, it's like not for everyone, and there's so many other avenues that you can go down, and I think it's really important for people to recognize that.
Absolutely. To wrap this little segment up, especially with that great talk about student organizations, I guess especially as a person who has to deal with work at Publix and school and having this organization, I guess should I ask you, how do you cope with balancing everything?
I feel like starting with a schedule is important. And I don't have one set in stone. Like, I'm not like 8 to 9 I'm doing this, 9 to 10 I do this. But like I do have like somewhat of a routine to my day. And I feel like to-do lists are very helpful just because when you focus on one thing at a time, first of all, I think that's it's easier for you to get distracted, like less distracted. And then I feel like I personally get very much satisfied when I get to cross something off and be like, yeah, I did this. And at the end of the day, when you see like everything you get done, it makes you feel good, and you're like, okay, maybe this works. And so it's also important, obviously, to have breaks as well. Obviously breaks are very important, and so you can factor those into your day as well. Like I mean, I put things on my list that like are fun. Like, I'll be like, go outside. Like, I don't like that's not important. It's not like a need to do, but it's just important to have that on your list. Or I'll be like, oh, I need to call so and so. Okay, like it might not be important, but it needs to be done.
Right. I think that, especially as a person who loves to do lists myself, I think that it's definitely a handy way of just organizing your life. Again, you don't have to like complete everything on the to-do list. You don't have to pressure yourself to put a million things on the to-do list. You can put random things, like you said, just go outside and feel this fresh air. And it can definitely make you feel like you're organized, and it make you feel satisfied with just, again, like marking things off. I do want to say I want to say that it is a problem when you get obsessed with completing to-do lists personally, because I struggled with that a lot. I used to put like a million things on there, and I'm like, okay, if I don't finish all of these things, then you should feel awful and you're not good enough and you're doing everything wrong. Please let go of that pressure if you are a person like me, because to-do lists are just there to keep things organized. It's not like a thing you have to stick to 100%, or it's just there to help you. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I say like just put what you can like handle in a day, and don't overdo it. Like just do what you can, and a to-do list is for you. Like you aren't showing that off. Like that's for you. And so
Right.
I definitely feel like do it for you again. You don't have to impress anyone with a to-do list.
Absolutely. I guess we should go on and talk about learning how to say no, because I know that this section is absolutely calling me out. I say yes to too many things, and I would love to hear your take on it. What past struggles have you had with saying no?
Yeah, so this never used to be as big of a problem until like a few months ago. I definitely have like a way larger network than I did like a year ago. So now people like refer me to opportunities like personally, and I'm like,
Ooh.
like how do I like say no? Like of course, like some of these things are such good causes, such good organizations, but like I don't have the time for it. And so like if it's like a 2-week commitment, sure, but some of these commitments are requiring like 5 to 6 hours a week, and I'm like, yeah, I need like more hours in the day if I want to do this. So I hate saying no. Like I almost feel like guilty because like there's such good people, there's such good causes, and like people like personally recommended me, so like they obviously like knew I would like it too, and I'm like, I definitely do like it. And like I love being that go-to person. Like I do love being someone that people can count on and be dependable and be that reliable person and like really help them turn things around. But like the harsh reality is that you cannot be that go-to person for everyone. And I do hate that I can't. Like I wish I could just like clone myself and like give one of me to every opportunity. But unfortunately you do have to pick and choose, and it is definitely something that I have learned to say no. But I'm working on not feeling guilty afterwards, because obviously there's a little bit of guilt. Like sometimes I totally want to do it, but like I really can't. Like there's like I would like adding another thing is not what I need right now, and so I just need to do what I have. But it definitely gets hard sometimes.
I definitely 100% agree with that. I feel like so guilty saying no to all these organizations who are reaching out to me and be like, hey, can you just like do this thing with us, and we'd love to have you there. And I'll be like, oh my god, yes, everything in me is screaming yes. But then I see every other thing that I have on my list to do, and I'm like, yeah, if I do this, I'm gonna have to like not sleep at all. So I definitely think it's a valuable thing that you're learning to not feel guilty about it, and me as well. And I think that it's definitely a real struggle that people can go with, because you really want to, again, just contribute to these causes and be a reliable person, but sometimes you have to just prioritize your own mental health and your own time and your sleep and your health just to be able to function, I guess. And
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
I'd just like to say that, yeah, I just want to say that it's not your job to help other people out, as much as I hate to say it, because like one of my sort of purposes in life is just to like help others and make sure people are okay. And when I can, it's just like, but it isn't your job. And your first priority should be you and just making sure you're okay. Yeah, I guess I do want to say that there is a certain aspect that plays a role, like self-esteem and self-respect, when you're talking about the reluctance of saying no. How do self-esteem and self-respect play a role in this, like, reluctance of saying no, if any?
It's all about that mindset. Obviously, that guilty feeling, that is my self-esteem. I do feel bad. But one thing I think about is there are way more people that are looking for these opportunities, and you're not like the only person that they can reach out to, and you can always recommend someone else. And so again, you shouldn't feel guilty about only taking opportunities that you're passionate about, and obviously like not doing it for the resume. So I feel like that's just more like, that's like your own self-respect. Like you need to respect that, hey, if you don't like it, that's not your fault, and it's completely okay. Like not everything is for everyone. And it's I feel like it's very important to establish like healthy boundaries and give people a clear idea of what you can actually handle. Like what I'm doing now is so much more than what I'll be able to do in the fall. In the fall, I'm going to be 10 times busier. I'll have school, I'll have AP classes. And so like, you don't want to say yes to everything, but then say no to everything. And I feel like that's why that balance is important, because you can give like a false misconception that you can do everything, that you have nothing else going on, but you need to tell people that your time is valuable. And you need to learn how to respect your own time, and saying no is really important to take care of yourself. But the more you practice to say no, the more natural and comfortable it'll be. You don't want to say yes also to please others. Like obviously it's something different if you really like the project, but you don't want to be like a people pleaser, because even though like you may think you're being super selfish, or you're kind of like, wow, that's kind of like really like self-conceited or something, like you need to do what's best for you. You don't want to like risk that burnout, or not prioritize yourself, and that's necessary, definitely, especially in your mental health. And I think it's a new concept to a lot of people, just because I feel like more people are experiencing it. But I do think saying no is a very underrated quality, and you don't want to be a no person, but you don't want to be a yes person.
Right. I want to say that when you mentioned the word people pleasing, my heart was just kind of like, because I am totally a people pleaser, and I hate to admit it. It is definitely something that I'm working through, but I feel like when you sort of turn to that people-pleasing concept, you're sort of disrespecting and disregarding yourself in every instance. I think a lot of the time that I try to push aside my negative feelings or my own time, my health, just to like make sure they're okay, and that's definitely 100% not healthy. And if it is, if you have to say no to make sure that you're okay every once in a while, that's definitely okay. People pleasing could definitely make you feel unhappy, and I feel like definitely that you can't really be fully happy if you're just continually pleasing others, because it really is your life and you really have to take control of it. So at the end of the day, what's most important, again, is you. And that doesn't mean disregarding others. It means just taking care of yourself and fitting yourself into opportunities when you have the time and when you're mentally okay to do those things. Yeah. Can I ask you if you had any sort of like people-pleasing outlooks, and if you're still struggling with that or things like that?
I feel like there's certain people I want to please, like I don't think in general I'm a people pleaser, but I feel like there are definitely certain people that I don't want to let down, or I don't want to say no to. Like, it is difficult for me to say no to certain people just because I know they expect so much of me. And I feel like that's where that pressure from other people comes in. So, and I feel like that's harder than saying no to like a random person that just like has an opportunity for me. Because obviously I don't want to let them down, but and again, most of the time they don't care. Like most of the time they're very understanding, and I'm just like overreacting. Like in my mind, like, oh my god, they're gonna hate me. Like I'm not gonna get this done on time.
Right.
But most of the time they're very like chillax about it. It's all in my own mind, and I feel like I'm trying to get better at that. But I feel like that's kind of where my people pleasing comes in. It's like with certain people that I do a lot for, that I really like, and I know that they think of me highly. So I wouldn't want, especially with teachers too, like, I don't want to do my work to the best just because, like, I know that's what they expect of me. Like, I may not need to. Or like when I feel like guilty about like, oh, I need an extension or something like that. Like, I shouldn't because, like, everyone does it. But I think that's kind of where my people pleasing comes in.
I totally get that. I think that especially pleasing my mother is a big thing for me. I know that she'll literally be okay with anything I do, and maybe scold me, of course, if I'm doing wrong. But I think being able to please her, show that I'm really trying hard to figure out my way, can definitely help her feel okay as a parent. And feel like proud of me, and I'm like, oh my god, you're proud of me.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's definitely like a thing that I sort of strive for, and that causes me to overwork and trying to take all these opportunities just so I can tell her and be like, Mom, guess what I did today. So I feel like even if I do say no to those opportunities, then she'll be absolutely okay, and there's no reason to put that sort of pressure on you. So I definitely agree with what you're saying with the certain people. I do want to say that if you are reluctant to say no to certain things, and if you do say yes to a lot of things, it can cause you to feel very overworked and very burnt out. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because I know that my junior year was just absolutely a constant line of burnout. So I love this topic. And for people who don't know, burnout is basically used to describe a physical or emotional exhaustion, and basically stress can drain a person's energy and cause a lower quality of work. So that being said, now that we have defined burnout, I was wondering, what do you think causes burnout in students or teens in general?
That's a really good question. And I do think it's different for every person for sure. But I think the biggest two for me is taking on too much and not prioritizing yourself first. I feel like so many people, again, they just think so highly of their future and their expectations that are expected by society. I feel like people are just trying to do what's best to become successful, and that can be very hard. And then even when they do take on too much, it's like that learning how to say no. Like, they aren't prioritizing themselves. They're saying yes. They're giving up their own time to get this assignment done or this project done or volunteer hours. And so I feel like I definitely struggled with it, but I think it's important to first at least like recognize that, like, if you are doing a lot and you don't have time for yourself, I think those are like my first two indicators, or like the most common indicators of burnout that I've seen, not only in myself, but even with my friends.
Right. I can definitely understand just, again, trying to, I guess, encroach on all of your time and all of your health, like, health needs, especially sleep. I feel like sleep is such a disregarded thing among students. Like, I know that there's students out there that just wake up at 3 a.m. and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll just do all this work before school. So they're working at 3 a.m. and working till school, and they get like 3 hours of sleep, and I absolutely hate that. Can you, or do you struggle with that?
I don't think I ever like have completely fully burned out, but It's definitely been evident in my life. And so, especially this like past like February, March, I felt very tired and busy, and I was always working, and I felt alone. And the only reason I feel like I really got out of it is because I started going back in person to school in late March. And I feel like that like really it really kicked my butt. And I had to get up on time, I had to get dressed, get ready, I had to socialize, I had to talk to my teachers, I had to work hard, I couldn't like wander off in class. Especially because cameras like weren't mandatory, so I could literally be sitting there doing like something completely different, which not all the time I was, but especially like I could be working like a totally different class. I would do that all the time. And I feel like I was going through some stuff with my friends, and so I just felt very blah. Like I didn't like feel like anything almost. And like I was so busy the entire day that like at nighttime when I was supposed to be sleeping, I would just like be thinking of like all my life's problems. And I was like, yeah, this is like not okay. So, and like at first, like, and then like when I wake up, like I felt fine, but I just felt like very repetitive, the same thing over and over again. So I'm really lucky that school started, and I feel like it got me around people that I actually wanted to see. And I feel like, especially with technology and social media, like you're never fully away from anyone, which can definitely be a downside. And so like I always see what's happening or what so-and-so is doing, and oh, so-and-so's hanging out with so-and-so today or something like that. Which stuff like that stuff should not matter to me whatsoever, but of course it's something that I think about or it bothers me. And because I'm so busy during the day, it never occurred to me like I was too busy studying or getting this project done. But at nighttime when I was just laying in my bed, like of course those are things that they do need thought. Like you can't just ignore your problems. And so because I was just so worked during the daytime, like my brain was like, okay, let's just discuss this. And I'm like, I kind of just want to go to bed. But I feel like that's why you need like alone time, because that's your time to, you know, think about the things that you don't think are important, but like they really are.
I definitely just relate to that sort of like, oh, you're just working all day, and then you just at night in your bed just with nothing to do, and like, let's think about all the things that I pushed away. And I definitely think that in order to like fully function and be okay with both your like mental health and your work life and your personal life, you have to build in time to just check in with yourself and be like, hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How's your body feeling? Just like seeing all the things that you may not have noticed when you're working. I know that me especially, every time that I meditate, because I love to meditate, I just feel all of this like pressure in my body that I've just been ignoring all day, and I hate that. I also want to say that oftentimes people who suffer from burnout have little time to relax or exercise or eat healthy and dedicate time to their leisure activities, and that really goes back to that sort of working and not realizing how much time you have to yourself, and realizing that you're really not taking out the time of the day to do the things that are important to you, like just relaxing and watching TV. I guess I want to ask you, going back to that sort of nighttime thinking and overthinking about every little thing that you pushed away, how do you sort of deal with that, or how do you get that sort of time to check in with yourself, as I mentioned before?
So for me, I felt like very not myself during that time period, and I feel like not my mom recognized it first. My mom knows things sometimes like way before I do. Like, it's kind of crazy, but I feel like she is the one who kind of made me really pause and figure out what changed, and she kind of realized, like, she kind of was the one who told me like that this is not okay. Like, you're like, not that I'm not okay, but like the fact that I'm not sleeping well, and it's kind of obvious when someone isn't sleeping well, like with eye bags, or they look a little pale the next day. And I feel like, obviously, like, I was very lucky. Like, of course, not everyone has like that support system that I do with my family and my friends. And the friends that I was like going through stuff with, like, of course they wouldn't know. And especially because I wasn't seeing anyone in school, like, they wouldn't know either. So I think I was looking for my mom to kind of have recognized that, and she kind of made me talk about it more and be like, yeah, you kind of need to take a break. And even when I was like studying for like hours on end, like sometimes I would just like get distracted, and I'm lucky to have found like a new group and a better group, but obviously there are times where I do like lurk back to the old days and reminisce and stuff like that. And I think it's good to have that kind of support system, even if it's not your family, but one good friend or another family member that can just kind of recognize that. I think that's something I'm very thankful for, and I wish everyone had. But I think if you can't have that support system or you don't have anyone to go to, I think it's really important just to like put your life on pause and just think about like what's changed in the amount of time that's gone by. Like what was there that wasn't a few months ago? And I feel like that'll really solve your question. Obviously it's hard again to hit pause without a help, but you cannot be ashamed to reach out to a family member or a friend, because again, prioritize you. And again, most of the time it's in your head. Most of the time people are going to want to be there to help you. And so that's kind of what I went through and what I kind of suggest to cope with it.
I totally get that. I do want to say that it's very essential to have a support system, and if you feel like you're alone, it's going to make things 100,000 million times more worse than it actually is. So I definitely think, again, having that support system and going to people you can talk to is really, really essential. And even if you don't have that support system, I'm really hoping that you do. But if you don't, I'm so sorry. But I do think a lot of times that people who are going through it, or who are reaching a state of burnout, or who are burnt out, have a lot of time struggling with like their personal relationships with family, friends, and peers, and every other person out there. So I guess trying to separate yourself from your own sort of issues, and trying to think outside of everything that you're dealing with right now, and trying to reach out to somebody about those sort of problems is definitely essential, like you said. And that really leads me to the question, what do you want to say to teens who don't have a support system, or who are going through burnout and just completely suffering right now?
I would say that it's okay if you're experiencing it. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. I feel like burnout is totally natural. Everyone has to go through it at some point, and it isn't the end of the world, and that you're going to get through it, even if you have to do it on your own. And I feel like that's the number one thing that you need to recognize, is that there's nothing wrong with you. Just because maybe you're the only one going through it, or you don't see anyone else going through it, most of the time you don't know when people are going through burnout. And I think that's very important to consider, because I don't think many people knew that I was going through that phase like last winter. And so I'm not like ashamed of it, but like obviously I'm not like broadcasting it. Oh, by the way, I burnt out like a few months ago. But I think it's totally natural, and you don't have to be ashamed of it. And I think there are more people around you that are experiencing it more than you think. And I think that's just really what's the most important to keep in mind. And don't undermine what you're going through. If you have like an uptick around finals week, of course you're going to be stressed out then. But if you're stressed out for like 3 months, like that's a problem. And again, that's when you need to put on pause and really identify what you're going through.
Absolutely. I know that feelings of burnout can definitely it can cause you to feel very depressed, or very anxious, or very just negative about a lot of things in your life. So especially want to emphasize that if it is more than 3 months, then maybe you should just take a pause really quick. But I do know that there are times where you can't really control what's going on in your life. You can't really control the outside stressors, but there is certain ways that you can still manage it. And I guess I should ask you, what are those certain ways for you? How do you cope with burnout, or reaching that sort of point where you think you are about to be burned out?
So the first thing I think is time management. Good sleep habits is a huge one. I feel like once I kind of got going to bed on time, waking up on time, especially with school, like, I feel like that definitely helped. Obviously, balanced diet, going outside, exercising. Obviously, like, they're not the most exciting things in the world, but they do need to be done. And you can always prevent it by, like, asking for help, which is, again, really hard to do and probably a whole nother topic onto itself. But I feel like that, again, like, without my mom, I don't think I would have gone through it by myself. I think I probably would have, but, like, it would have taken way longer. And I feel like that's why I completely didn't burn out. I just, like, felt it kind of. And then my mom was like, yep, this is not happening. So, again, I'm really lucky to have that person that was able to be like, yeah, you need to take a break. This is not okay. You need to distance yourself. You need to not care about this. You need to focus on this instead. And I feel like she really helped me, like, reprioritize what was important in my life. And I feel like reprioritizing it's natural and it's hard to do, but it's definitely necessary. And so I'm definitely thankful to her that she helped me do that. And I feel like just try to find, like, your comfort hobby and a creative hobby, or just something that makes you, like, forget about everything else for a little bit. And yeah, those would be my suggestions.
Awesome. I do want to say that especially when you feel overworked, it's good to have a change in environment and changing the way that you do act. Or if I know that, especially with me, I hate exercise and I know that despite it, like, releasing endorphins and, like, stress relieving chemicals, it still sucks. But again, like you said, it's definitely an important thing to do. Just getting physical in any aspect, really. I know that, especially for me, I love, like, riding my bike or even boxing. I love those things. So try to make it fun. And like you said, with the creative hobby, it's just, like, such a freeing feeling. Or meditating, like I said, to help you stay calm and help with anxiety and things like that. Doing those things can definitely help, even if they aren't the most, like, exciting things in the world or make you feel, like, really sore with exercising. But it's definitely essential part. And I love that you spoke about reprioritizing, because I feel like, especially as an AP student, focusing a lot on just schoolwork and just, like, focusing a lot of your time on things that make you feel drained can obviously make you feel drained, like, and make you feel burnt out. So I do love that, again, you have to reprioritize and change your environment and things like that. So yeah, I think with that, I do want to wrap up the episode. I do want to have y'all have a virtual clap for Sabeen over here for being an amazing guest. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And just a few more things for our viewers. You can check out our website, which is bloompod.wixsite.com/podcast, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Forever Bloom Pod, and you can find us on TikTok at Forever Blooming Podcast. All of the research and the transcript for this episode is on the Forever Blooming websites in the extra section. And if you want to be like Sabeen here, you can definitely fill out our podcast guest form, and you can be featured. If you want to contact us, that is foreverbloomingpodcast@gmail.com, and there is a link tree in the description with all of these links here. And just make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends if you really enjoyed this episode as much as we loved filming this video for you, or filming this podcast for you. And I really hope you guys have a great day, afternoon, or night whenever you're listening to this. And thanks for tuning.